I withdrew wife privileges from my boyfriend because he won't propose. My boyfriend have been together for 7 years now. I had voiced that I wanted to be engaged before the 4-year mark. He agreed at the time. When we were half a year from reaching our 4th year anniversary, I had revisited the topic of marriage and told him I was expecting to get married. He was finishing up his master's program at the time and said he wanted to get out of student debt again and get his finances in order. I bit my tongue and understood that we are partners and I can try to meet him halfway. He earns good money and we already moved in together 2 years into our relationship, and did long distance when he was in his master's program. My job is remote, so I moved into his hometown 3 hours away from the OG. I have been seeing all my friends and cousins get married and it's hard to feel happy on such a joyous occasion when your ring finger feels so empty and everyone starts asking you. Lately, my partner has been thriving in work and enjoying his new life, and it's almost as if he forgot about our personal goals. When I initiated a discussion again, I could sense he was dragging his feet. He didn't have enough money for a ring or savings for a wedding when he would very well buy the motorbike he always wanted since he was kid. He said our life is good as is, why do we need a stamp of validation from the world? You are on your one health insurance, so what's the point? All of this just left me heartbroken. Why don't I deserve to be his wife, after being his GF for so long? Does he not love me enough to make a romantic gesture for me? Choosing me over his useless bike? I talked to my sister who got engaged 2 years into her relationship and her approach was simple yet effective. She told me to withdraw all wife privileges from him until I get that title, that he has to earn me, not cleaning and cooking for him, moving out, not pay for his expenses sometimes, stuff like that. My boyfriend got mad because I didn't renew our lease with him, and told me that's a very poor way of handling things and we need this constant in our life to preserve that intimacy, telling me that's the kind of precedent I am setting up for our eventual marriage. I have been a wife for you without the title. I gave myself completely to you, only to expect you to do this one thing for me. I've waited long enough. I don't really believe in ultimatums, so I am not going to force your hand. I am simply acting as your girlfriend now. If you really want our relationship to go back to what it was, you better give me an upgrade. What's the correct way of handling this? Edit. To all the dense folks asking me why don't I just propose, I have something to say. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Some people like things to be traditional, and he and I are certainly that. There's nothing wrong with wanting that. In our culture, in 2023, in hetero relationships, a woman making comments about being ready to marry / wanting to get engaged is her proposal. Then it's up to the man to either accept by proposing formally, or decline by not proposing, and at that stage the woman proposing is embarrassing herself by doing it tbh. It's just a dumb gotcha where people like to play faux dumb and scratch their heads at how daft cultural norms are and like to pretend that things have evolved to be how they wish them to be in the future. Similar to the fake disingenuous wait, you've discussed marriage and both said you want it, surely that means you're engaged? Why are you waiting for a ring? He probably doesn't even realize you need one, you're engaged. Just book a venue. Which pretends that proposals don't actually exist as a way of formally asking for marriage instead of merely expressing positive feelings towards the idea. Comment. Precisely. My ex-boyfriend was with me for 5 years, not an utterance of getting married. We have 2 kids. I left October 2018. In January of 2019, he was with the next woman. In January of 2020, he proposed to her. They got married last year. If he wanted to, he would. For the record, I got engaged to my partner in June of this year. So, don't let him keep you from the man who wants to be with you. Maybe. He'll probably panic and settle for someone different in a year or 2 when he decides he wants to be married. Do not take this personally. It has no bearing on your self-worth. It happens due to a panic response in these kinds of people. Nope. He just wants no strings money, housework, and sex. It's notable that he's only squawking now because she's withdrawing the resources he's using to make his life comfortable. It's also notable that these guys have learned how easily the "it's just a piece of paper" argument can be shredded and are now moving on to implying their partner is shallow and insecure. Why do you need the world's approval? And you know what truly sucks? He's going to marry someone else within the next 2 years after she breaks up with him. Like how many times have we seen men just waste our time and best years of our lives while we give and give and give and hope to infinity and beyond for that one tangible symbol of commitment and unity. Needs to brace herself for what's to come. When a guy wants to marry a woman, nothing gets in his way, but when they know you aren't their forever person, even a chipped fingernail will be the mountain that's too high to climb and overcome to commit to you. My fiancé knew from our first date. He proposed after about a year of dating, and we're getting married a few weeks before our 2-year anniversary. We both have friends and family who've been dating the same person for 5-7+ years, all in the same age range, late 20s, early 30s, that I know are feeling some pressure now. When you know, you know. To be fair, my hubby took 5 years. But apparently knew from the beginning, even before we got together. He's just really bad at making a decision. Even if he has already made it, the acting on it is terrible. Dumb excuses too. My engagement ring was $90 and I bought it. But it's 21 years together now and we're happy for the most part. There are always ups and downs, but mostly ups. My parents beat yours by a month and my dad said the same thing. Other ups. Hubby said, "Oh, I knew right away, your mom was just dating Senior, my older brother's dad, on and off, and I had to wait until she was officially tired of him. Then I finally got a date." Like. After a date. A singular date. My mom said the same. She was trying to make it work with Senior, but then finally stopped being an asshole in order to please him and found out everything she wasn't getting from Senior my dad wanted to offer. 30 years later and they're still together. My husband and I both knew from the first date too. I remember the date ending and me realizing that it was the last first date I was ever going to go on. Weird feeling. We were engaged 15 months later once we were both living in the same place, married 8 months after that. Still going strong, 25 years after that first date. Next story too. My husband said he's disappointed because I can't give him a daughter. We always talked about children and we both always said that we wanted to have all girls, but we ended up having 6 boys and I don't care because the only thing that matters to me is that they are all healthy, but apparently my husband doesn't think that way, because exactly a month ago we had another boy and he felt disappointed. We decided to wait until he was born to find out his gender, and when he was born my husband just laughed and that was it. It is obvious that he loves him and is happy with him, and he's an amazing dad to be honest, but he still feels disappointed. 2 weeks ago I was using his computer, where he has his WhatsApp connected, and I accidentally read a chat that he was having with his brother where he told him that he was disappointed that I couldn't give him a daughter. He said that he loves our children and doesn't regret having them, but that he still dreams of having a daughter and that it saddens him to know that we will probably never have one, that sometimes he thinks about what would have happened if he stayed with his ex-girlfriend. She currently has 3 girls, and honestly reading that made me feel really bad, because there is nothing I can do to change the gender of our baby, and because it is horrible to know that he is still thinking about someone with whom he has not had a relationship for more than a decade. That same day I talked to him about it and he apologized and said that he shouldn't have said anything. He said that he loves our children and me, and that saying that about his ex was crossing the line, and he apologized for that too, but I still have a bittersweet feeling. It's like everything he said is stuck in my head and I can only think about it. I didn't bring it up again because I don't want to look stupid, but I feel so sad and depressed and I haven't stopped feeling that way since I read those messages. How can I forget what he said? Is it normal to think about what would have happened if you stayed with your ex-partner? Comment. They don't understand jack shit about the true meaning of having kids either. They're not rare Pokemon that one collects, they're human beings with their own complexities. Even if they had all girls, would they expect them to act according to how they believe a girl should act too? Would they accept them if they didn't end up dressing in floral dresses and don't wear their hair long? I'm just gonna say it because nobody else will. The only people who ever have this many kids are the same ones who believe in gender roles. So. Yeah, that's exactly what he thinks. You do know that the gender is determined by the man's sperm, and any woman in your place would have given him a son, right? He was the determining factor that led to a male child. What's this "you can't give him a daughter" nonsense? It's the other way round. If anything, he couldn't give you a daughter. Has your husband had basic biology lessons? If not, you should link him to resources about reproduction of humans. And then dump him if he doesn't offer you the biggest and most genuine apology in the universe. It's pretty much the guy who determines the sex of the baby. So you didn't give him only sons, he gave you only sons. Your husband sounds either a bit misogynistic, or a lot ignorant. Please tell him to read about how sperm determines the sex of babies and then ask him whether you should have married someone else. I feel that he didn't throw a tantrum, he had a private message between him and his brother. She didn't accidentally read a whole ass message. She was snooping, and found something she didn't like. Here's the thing, people are allowed to vent in private, or with their mom, brother, dad. Does it make it good what he said? No. It's an idiotic thing to say and he sounds like an ass. But in private? If he keeps comments to himself or someone close and that's their secret, then that's their secret. As long as he's not cheating, I think it was wrong for Op to snoop in his private stuff. She went looking and found stuff. Whoa, big surprise. I have chats I wouldn't want my partner to read where I needed to vent. I think this whole ass comment section is nuts for not recognizing that. I think I don't need to remark about biology, as most people have already. Maybe you could talk with him and suggest you ask his ex's husband to be your sperm donor? That way you would have a shot at having a daughter. Ugh. Obviously I am not being serious, but I would be so furious with him if I were you. Blaming me and talking about exes. Go fuck whoever you want, I deserve way more than a man that will so easily talk trash about me.